Good evening, everyone. It's Friday evening. It's Friday evening in Sydney, Australia. What is the difference? What is a 997? That is the question. What is a 997? If you don't know what a 997 is, then you should watch this video. Hopefully you guys that know about a 997 or know what a Porsche 997 is are still watching this video. I was only joking before. I didn't mean you for not to watch this video, so please keep watching. Okay, so the 997 was the internal designation for the 2004 to 2012 Porsche 911. In 2009 it was updated to the 997.2, which was known amongst the community as 997.2. Internally in Porsche it was the 997 Gen 2. The Gen 2 had quite a few changes, which we'll go through like in this video. Production of the Carrera 997 and Carrera S started in 2004 for model 2005 year. So they started, it was 2005 model year. 2005 model year, as you know, with the Carrera and the Carrera S have the IMS issue. Which you shouldn't be too concerned about really, unless you got a very early model, which a lot of people have had the LN Engineering, or other people who do it, which I can't remember off the top of my head, have had the IMS upgraded, retrofitted. I'm not sure of the technical term, but yeah, they've had the bearing changed. My 997 is a 2006 997. You can easily check if you are more likely to have the IMS issue by checking the VIN number. The VIN number, my 2006, because it's a 2006 model, has the larger bearing. So the first revision, there was another revision after that, and then in the Gen 2 it was the problem was completely eradicated. The 997, as you know, preceded the 996. The 996 was not one of the most popular Porsches due to the egg-shaped headlights. Porsche did a revised. They revised those headlights to look not so ugly. I think, I'm not sure what model year was it, 2002? Was it 2002? I know the GT3 has the better lights, so I think it must have been when the GT3 came out. I don't think the first GT3 had those lights. Anyway, let me know, I'm not sure about that. I mean, the 997 when it came out, the biggest changes were in the styling. The interior was much better than the 996. The exterior went back to the headlights of Porsche's heritage, like the 993. I mean, in general, the car is technically pretty similar to the 996, to its predecessor. It was technically pretty similar to the predecessor. So the carryover problems with the 996 engines that happened in the 996 911 and Boxsters as well carried over to the 997. Yeah, so in 2009, Porsche updated the 997 to the Gen 2. The Gen 2 was DFI, direct fuel injection. It had revised headlights and revised taillights, LED indicators, LED taillights. It got rid of the Tiptronic transmission for the PDK transmission. I think originally the PDK, the buttons were on the steering though, and then you could get flappy paddles later on. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first iteration was those push buttons on the steering wheel. One of the major changes from the 997.1 to the 997.2 was the engine. You got more power with the 997.2. Base 997.2 Carrera is supposed to be very similar in power to a 997.1 Carrera S. I don't know what the figures off the top of my head, but I'll have a look at them. So the original 997.1 Carrera was, what was it? 239 kW, 321 horsepower, 370 Newton meters of torque, or 270 pounds of torque. The 997.2 Carrera went up to 340 horsepower, 254 kW. The Carrera S power increased to 380 horsepower, 283 kW. I don't have the Newton meters on these figures, so I don't know what the Newton meters were for the 0.2, but obviously they've increased over the 0.1. Yeah, so the key things between the 997.1 and the 997.2, the first being new engine with direct fuel injection. Carrera S engine is also mounted 0.4 inches, 10 millimeters lower in the tail section. That's something to do with the DFI engine, I think, from what I read. It's got a revised suspension, which once again they had to revise suspension for the DFI engine. Revised front bumper with larger intake, new LED tail lamp shape, and LED turn signals. Redesigned Porsche sports exhaust. The criticism of the 997.2, and I don't know whether this is correct or not, is that it's the sound is quite soft in the bass and even in the Carrera S with the sports exhaust. Apparently the engine sound is much better in the 997.1. I'm just saying this because I read it on Renlist on a couple of forum threads in Renlist. I'm not sure if it's true. Let me know in the comments, but I've heard that the sound is slightly better from the 997.1 engine than the 997.2 engine, even with the Porsche sports exhaust fitted. Of course, the interior has the redesigned PCM, so it has PCM 3. Mine has PCM 2.1. PCM 3 is, obviously it's black now, it's not the volcano gray color or whatever the 0.1 had. Also the 997.2 PCM 3 is touchscreen, and it has Bluetooth built in, which is good to have. I'm having the problems at the moment, as you know. PCM 2.1 that I have, the SIM card no longer works due to, sorry, this camera, I'm still trying to get it to keep focus. PCM 2.1 still cannot use a SIM card slot, so I will have to get the Bluetooth module put into the car. I know there's cheap versions with the Transit Blue and things like that. I have talked about this before. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with the, I can't remember it. Let me come back. Mobridge. Sorry, I don't know how I forgot that. So I think I'm going to go with the Mobridge. I know most people go with the Denison or the Mobridge. I think I'm going to go with the Mobridge. Not now though. I'm not going to do it now. I'm just going to leave it for a few months, but I will actually get it done. It is on my list of things to do. Yeah, and so another major change, if you like automatic transmission, is the Tiptronic sports transmission. Tiptronic transmission was replaced with the PDK. 7-speed PDK is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, which is obviously a much better transmission than the Tiptronic system. The Gen 2 production began obviously as 2009 model years, so it would have started in 2008. I think the price increased worldwide, slightly increased for the Gen 2. As you know, Gen 2 prices now compared to Gen 1 are, well, I'm basing this in Australia. In Australia, they're holding very firm. Not many come up. A lot of automatics come up. The manuals don't come up as often. When the manuals come up, they are priced pretty high. You know, I think I've said this before, but a 997 GTS is very, very hard to come by. I'm just talking about, basically in this video, I'm just trying to talk about Carrera and Carrera S. I don't want to get into the other models because it gets very confusing. I'm just talking about the general thing about a 997, the general differences between the 0.1 and the 0.2. But yeah, 997.2 prices are quite expensive here in Australia. Not as hard, quite hard to come by. As you know, I bought the 0.1 to be sensible, and happy with the 0.1 and no problems at all with the car. Plenty of power even in the base Carrera that I have. So if you're looking at buying a 997, I would not hesitate in buying a 997.1. I would probably try to get a 2006 or later model. If you have the extra money, I guess try and get the 0.2, but you know, I think you'd be happy. If you haven't had a 911 before, I think you'd be happy with a 0.1. You know, I read this on, this part of information on Wikipedia, so I don't know whether it's correct, because you can't always trust Wikipedia, as you know. Anyone at university will know that you cannot use Wikipedia as a cited source in your papers. Wikipedia says that the 997 is the most commercially successful 911 of all time. Sold 100,000 units of the first phase alone. Between its introduction in 2005 and 2007, it has also received mostly positive reviews from the worldwide motoring press. I remember watching the reviews. I remember watching the reviews on 5th Gear, and I remember watching the reviews of the 997 on Top Gear. And I remember the one with Jeremy Clarkson where he was quite impressed with it, even though he didn't like 911s in general. I think the Top Gear one, I think the guy, I can't remember his name, is it Tiff? Someone like that, wasn't it? He was doing it on the track. It could have been an S. But you know, he was very happy with it too. I mean, it's quite a good review. It's still on YouTube. It's quite old now, obviously, but it's still a good review to watch. I mean, the 997 in general is classed as a future classic. We've touched on this before in my previous videos, but it is classed as a future. It is one of those future classic 911s. One, because of the steering changed after this from the 997 to 991. The 997 has hydraulic steering. Also, the Mezger engines on the GT3 and turbo are obviously finished in the 997. The other thing about a 997, if you are looking at a 997, is a 997 is quite a nice cockpit. It's not a big car, but it's not as small as the earlier Porsches. In fact, I think the size is probably just right. The 991, I've sat in a 991. I've never driven a 991. The 991's beautiful inside. I really love the sloping dash panel, but it feels like a much bigger car. It feels like a much bigger car when you're sitting in it. Like I said, I haven't driven the car. But you know, the 997, it was a, even though it had similarities to the 996, it was a big change from the 996 styling. Exterior and interior alone, it looked completely different. It looked completely different. It's like Porsche realized what they had to do to get it back on track, and they did it very quickly. And most people were happy with the direction they took and the styling cues that they took for the 997. Yeah, so we touched briefly on the engines, but obviously the Carrera has the 3.6 liter engine. The Carrera S has the 3.8 liter engine. The 997 Gen 2 and 997.2 engine, the power was increased. Both of them saw an increase in power. The 997.2 base Carrera, like I said, becoming very close to the 997.1 Carrera S in power. Yeah, so like I said, my 997.1 Carrera has 325 horsepower. That rose to something like 345 horsepower with the facelift. So the power was, you know, the power increase was quite substantial. I mean, if you're looking at buying a 997, obviously the Carrera S has a lot more things standard than the base Carrera. The Carrera S, I think in Australia, I think PASM was standard. Xenons, I think, was standard. It has 19-inch wheels. I think it came here, in Australia, it came standard with the lobster wheels, which I have now fitted to my 911 Carrera. The 19-inch lobster wheels, the standard came with the 18-inch. It had slightly different trim in the cabin as well. The S has the silver trim. The base has the volcano gray trim in the 997.1. In the 997.2, you have the black PCM3. I think the trim is silver, right? It's silver. I think it's silver in the 997.2. I mean, as you know, I'm pretty new to the Porsche ownership. I've only had my car for a year, so I read a lot. I don't remember all the information that I've read. Sometimes I'll be doing these videos and I know that some of my facts aren't correct, so excuse me if they're not. Let me know in the comments. I'm happy for you guys to correct me. It's not a problem. But I just wanted to do a short video today anyway and just talk about the 997. What is a 997? What is a 997? If you're looking at buying one, maybe this video will help you. For you guys that know about Porsche and know about the 997 and 991s and all of that, it may not be a great video. It may not be a great video to help you. So for anyone that's watching this video that doesn't know much about Porsche, you have two choices in a 997. You have a 997.1 and you have a 997.2. If you're looking at something quite affordable to get into, you have the base 997 Carrera. Base, as they call it. It's not really, you know, don't think you're getting something inferior. It's just the standard model. You've also got the Carrera S. If you don't want the 997.1, you can go up to the 997.2. 997.2, like I said, has suspension upgrades, engine upgrades, doesn't have any IMS issues, different taillights, LED, and DFI engine, direct fuel injection engine. Yeah, so I mean, there's choices out there. It's very hard market at the moment, as you know, to buy a Porsche. Prices are going up. I read something yesterday on Porsche Forums Australia, where the 928 prices are just going up like crazy. I think there was one for sale here for about 115 Australian dollars. There was a really cool GTS one for sale. So the prices are all going up. There's not many bargains to be had in the Porsche world. You can still get a 996 for a really good price. They were built from 99 to 2004. Yeah, but there's still a way to get into the Porsche world in a sensible way. 996, 997. If I was, like I said, my choice was a 997. I preferred the styling of the 997. I would have preferred to get an S. S was out of my price range at the time, and also not many came up in low kilometers in the year model that I wanted, because I didn't want an S, a 997.1S in an 04, 05. I would rather an 06, late 06 or 07 model, preferably 07. Not many came up in manual. 997.2s were way too expensive. They were about 30,000 more Australian dollars for a 997.2 base Carrera. Anyway, just a short video today. Second video for 2018. I know it's taking me a little bit to get off the mark here, and I'm a bit slow with videos this year, but second video for 2018. What is a 997? What is a 997? If you're looking at buying a Porsche, I would definitely recommend the 997, and I would not hesitate to get a 997.1. If you find one and you have the dollars to spend, get the 997.2. I know in other countries they're not such a big difference in price. I'm talking about Australia here because this is where I am at the moment. In Australia, the prices are quite a lot more expensive with the 0.2. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button somewhere here. And I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.